I am fantasy and paranormal romance author Leslye Penelope, and welcome to My Imaginary Friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Sunday, December 31st, 2023, and this is episode 229 of My Imaginary Friends. I'm Leslye. Just as a reminder, you can sign up for the Footnotes newsletter, which includes the show notes for each episode, as well as a weekly newsletter with inspiration, strategies, and ideas to help you grow as a writer. And all of that is available at myimaginaryfriends.net/footnotes. When you sign up, you can choose to become an imaginary best friend for a few dollars a month and get access to premium posts, which are long-form craft essays, as well as discounts on my courses and one-on-one coaching. And starting in 2024, I will be doing workshops and tutorials exclusively for best friends. We are starting with the revision workshop, which I had been talking about after NaNoWriMo. So we've taken December off, and I will be doing a live revision workshop on January 29th. That is a Monday, 2024, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, only available to best friends. So it's only $5 a month or $50 a year to become one, and then you get access to cool stuff. Other announcements. The final cohort for the Imaginary World Building course happens in January. It starts Saturday, January 13th, and I'm just checking the date to make sure that's actually the date. Yes, that's the date. There are only 2 spots available, so it's 4 weeks in a row, 4 Saturdays at 12 p.m. noon. We're going to get together live on Zoom and work through the issues. It's mastermind style, so you bring whatever you want to bring to it, and you get my feedback and the other participants' feedback. So whether it's questions on the course or your writing, anything having to do with the Imaginary World Building course. If you were already enrolled in the course, you can add it on. And if you have not taken the course yet, there's plenty of time to sign up. I'm not going to be doing any more cohorts next year. I've enjoyed them a lot, but I'm trying to focus on the whole do less but do it better thing that I totally failed at in 2023. And I have a feeling I'm not going to do great at it in 2024, but I do want to do it one more time. So 2 spots available for the cohort starting January 13th, 2024. If you are listening to this before then, you can go to myimaginaryfriends.net to sign up, and you can see the courses. And if you're already in the course and you want to add on the cohort, then I'm sending an email out with the link for that, or you can email me. So it's New Year's Eve, and this week's best thing is that the New Year is happening. It's been a while since I've podcasted. The holidays got around, and I had intentions, but I was traveling, and it just, of course, did not happen. But lots of things have been going on. So the writing update, I want to go through what I'm doing now and my plans for the new year. Currently, I am finishing up the proofread of Daughter of the Merciful Deep, which is my next historical fantasy, which comes out in June of 2024. And so that's due, when this comes out, it's due the next day. It's due January 2nd. And so I'm halfway through my final read through, my proofread. Then there's other proofreaders reading at the same time, and I'm sure they'll have some questions. Usually they send in. So we're in the final stages of the process. I need to ask about arcs. I haven't seen the final cover yet. So things are moving forward. The book is on pre-order. If you would like to pre-order Daughter of the Merciful Deep, the link will be in the show notes. And once I get the final cover, I'll start designing things for the pre-order campaign. Usually I do bookmarks, stickers, things like that. And I have every intention of doing that again this year. So I'm excited about all of that. And I'm really excited about this book. You know, I've had some trepidation about this book, but doing this read through, I love it. I feel good about it. So I feel in the place where I need to be, where it's like, I've done everything I could for this book. I did my best. I put everything into it. And then I have to send it off into the world. And, I'm not in control of what anyone else thinks or the market or how well it sells and all of that. All I can do is control the part that I can control, which is make it the best book that it can possibly be. And to the best of my ability, I have done that. And I'm really happy with it. So that's always a good feeling. In other book publishing news, Brutal Fortress, the third book in the Bliss Wars trilogy, is with the copy editor right now. So I'll get that back in a couple of weeks and then do my final read through and get everything ready for publication. It is also on pre-order. The link is in the show notes. And I'm selling it on my own website, and it will release there 2 weeks early. So 2 weeks before it's on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, all the other retailers. It's going to be on my store at lpenelope.com. So if you would like to pre-order it and read it before it's available everywhere else, please do so. If you need to catch up on the series, the other 2 books, starting with Savage City and then Beastly Kingdom, are available everywhere. And yeah, it feels good to have brought that book to a close. That was another kind of tough one. We'll see how I feel about it after I get the copy edits back and I'm doing my final read through. The last time I read it, I did like it. So once again, just doing everything I can do to get the book done, get the series, the trilogy done, and get it out into the world. So what's up next? Once that's done, I am going to be taking another look at a short story that I wrote for the fairy tale anthology, which I can never remember the title of, but it was from Pharaoh Feb. And my story was called Her Majesty's Wolf. It's the gender-swapped Red Riding Hood story. I think it's 6,000 words, and I want to expand it a little bit and then re-release it. I got a great cover made a couple months ago, and I'm sure my cover designer's like, when can I show people this cover? So that's my next project. I do want to do a couple more short stories, and I would love to do something more in that world. So Her Majesty's Wolf takes place in my Elsewhere world. If you are on my reader newsletter, you have gotten free short stories, and I've written other short stories and anthologies that take place in this world, which is a big world that has fairy elements in it. It's like a fairy world, so it's my version of that. And it's not necessarily, like I've been building the world to be big enough to incorporate lots of different stories. So this one is very different than the other stories that I've written in this world, and I might go back, if I ever do a short story collection, make slight edits, because I've, over the years, as it's been coming to me, it's changed a little bit, and it kind of just is what it needs to be for the story that I'm writing. But the NaNoWriMo book takes place in this world also, and I really changed the world a lot for that. So we'll see how it all connects. But first things first, I'm going to do some extra scenes, expand that story a little bit. It's not going to be a full-length novel by any means. Maybe go from 6,000 to 10,000 words. I'll see what the muse decides about that. And then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it in terms of whether I'm giving it away on my newsletter or whether I'm going to just put it up for sale. It as a standalone up for sale doesn't, I don't know, I might give it away on my newsletter. So if you're not on my reader newsletter, make sure you're on that at lpenelope.com/newsletter. It's available on every page of that website too. And yeah, I'd like to do some more shorts in Q1 of 2024 because I will also be working on my next book proposal. So Daughter of the Merciful Deep takes me out of my 2-book contract with Orbit Red Hook Books. And I do have an option, which means they get the first right of refusal on my next work of adult fantasy. So I have an idea. I have to submit a book proposal, 3 chapters plus a synopsis, essentially. And I have to plot that book. So what I'm going to be doing is this paranormal thriller that I had started. I think I have a full draft of it a couple years ago. Another one of my quote-unquote trunk novels. This is something I never had time to finish. But I'm going to make some changes to it. Whenever I step away from a book for months or years, no, maybe not months, but definitely years, I can't just pick up where I left off. I usually need to start from scratch, and I don't always read it again. The jury's out on exactly what the process will be for this. The problem with that manuscript was that I never understood the second half. That's a problem for many of my manuscripts or my initial ideas. The second half is always a mystery. I usually have to replot at the second half, like I write to the midpoint. If you've been a long-time listener, you will be familiar with this, but I'm a plotter, but the plots always change while I'm writing. So starting over from scratch is a good idea. Also, I think I'm changing the time period. I think I'm adding dual timelines. I'm doing a lot of changes. The core story and the hook is the same. And so I have a new editor at Orbit, and when we met, I gave her the brief elevator pitch, and she seemed excited. It's a very good hook. It's a good pitch, and I'm really excited. So I think Q1 of 2024, as I'm writing hopefully more shorts, I will be writing this proposal, plotting this book, and writing the first 3 chapters, the synopsis, all of that, getting that submitted. So that's project number 1. After that, I do want to go back to that NaNoWriMo story and really work on the world building first, and then replot it, take another stab at it. I think I'm going to try for a traditional deal on that, and I'll have to figure out what that means, where to submit it, all of that. I will have to get a new agent in order to do that, and so I haven't really been focused on that at the end of this year. It's just a lot happening, and I've been trying to really rest and take more time, not be in a rush. But 2024, my goal is to sell at least 2 books, or to get at least 2 contracts, whether it's 2 book deals. I don't know what the deal would be, but yeah, that is my goal that I'm putting into the universe. I would like to have 2 new contracts with traditional publishers. As far as self-publishing, any self-publishing idea would be short work. I don't have any plans to self-publish another novel next year, or this year, as it will be in just a few hours. And I have 3 ideas. So we've talked about paranormal thriller. There is this nano story, which is at the moment still a cozy fantasy romance. I know in my last episode, I did a whole thing that doesn't want to be cozy, but I think that I still want it to be. So I'll fight with myself a little bit more about that book, and we'll see what happens. And then I have another kernel of an idea, not even a seed, more like a zygote of an idea. Do plants have zygotes? I don't know. I never did biology. But yeah, it's tiny and it needs to grow, and it will need time and space to grow. So as I'm working on this other stuff, I think once I get my feet under me with the option book, the paranormal thriller, then I will focus some more mental energy on this third idea as I'm reworking the nano story. But I think I experienced with Daughter of the Merciful Deep what happens when a story doesn't have enough time to gestate and grow. I wrote it incredibly quickly. It was 2 years in October from first idea to basically finished book that I'm proofreading now in December. And that should be enough time, you'd think, but it wasn't. And it's not to say that I need many, many years for every idea. Some ideas come quickly, but they come formed. And some ideas come as great ideas, but they're not formed. And, with Daughter, I did push it. And I experienced the downfall of that. It was just the process was hard. I do think I came up with something good, but what would it have been if it had felt more cooked by the time I started writing it? And so, yeah, I don't know this third book at all yet. And I haven't been thinking about it on purpose because it is the thing I'm trying to do that I hope to do this year, that I should be able to, in theory. With the paranormal thriller, I wouldn't write it until it sells. I do the proposal, I do all the plotting, hopefully in a lot of detail, but once I got a contract, I would finish writing it. The NaNoWriMo book, I probably would write and this is just what I'm saying today, this might change completely. I have to write where the energy goes. But those 2 books, Nano, I think I got half a book. That would probably change a lot. Do another proposal, try to sell it, see what happens. At that point, think about this third book. As I'm talking, the plan sounds even more shaky, but it'll come together because it always does. And I will figure it out. But those are the 3 stories that have energy, or 3 parts of stories that have energy, and that I will be focusing my time on this year. In other news, I've been reading a bunch. I had set a Goodreads goal that I am certain I will fail at, but I'm going to give it my last shot, and I could probably squeeze in 1 more book today before the deadline. I should check and see where I'm at. But some things that I can recommend. There is a new Paladin book by T. Kingfisher. It's the fourth in the Paladin series, Paladin's Faith. So I probably have recommended Paladin's Grace, which is the first in the series, which I adored. It is fantasy romance that takes place in, she has this sort of world with these countries that is like, there's clockwork things. I don't know what she would call it. It's really great what she was doing with that world, because I read The Clockwork Boys, is that what it was called? Anyway, all the Paladin's books are great. This last one, Paladin's Faith, also great and highly recommended. And then I read a historical romance, Passion by Lisa Valdez, which is one of those books that I had to immediately recommend to my friends because I just needed their feedback. It was one of those things where I'm not sure if I'm reading what I think I'm reading. I was at like 35%. I didn't even finish the book before. I was like, y'all have to read this because we need to discuss this. And I think we talked about it on the Ink and Magic podcast too, one of the episodes. Who knows? And so yes, Passion by Lisa Valdez. If you like erotic historical romance, I would say in the first chapter, they're getting down and dirty. So check out the free sample and see if this book is for you, because it is a lot. It's a lot. It is an experience, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. I was also vaguely horrified by it, but I still recommended it to my friends. So do with that information what you will. And then I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata, which I'd heard about for years but never got around to reading. And then over on the Ink and Magic podcast, which is what I host with my best friend, Ines Johnson, where it's technically a paranormal and fantasy romance podcast where we are rereading Psy Changeling by Nalini Singh. But we do every other episode as a craft episode. And so we were recording the Marriage of Convenience episode. And I was just looking through the notes because Inez was leading that one. We take turns sort of leading off on those craft episodes. And I was like, I got onto Goodreads and was looking at different lists of Marriage of Convenience books just to jog my memory of what I'd read. And I came across The Wall of Winnipeg and Me again, and I read the description and I was like, I need to read this book today. I'm an emotional reader, and whatever emotions were in that book blurb were exactly what I wanted. And it really scratched the itch. I stayed up late. I woke up early the next day to finish it. It was great. It was also something that I really want to talk about on that podcast because I want to get Inez's take on it from a structural perspective. She is such a structuralist when it comes to romance novels. And that book has a different structure. It's not your average Marriage of Convenience story, I'll say. It hits the beats eventually, but it is such a slow burn and it takes so long to ramp up. They don't kiss for real till like 70% in that book. And yeah, I would love to have one of our discussions about that book. I loved it though. Highly recommend it. Another thing that I have been incorporating into my routine, I've been trying to really shore up my morning routine. So getting up, I've been taking my morning walks. I've been most days stretching. I've been meditating most days for at least 20 minutes. And I bought this journal, which is the Some Lines a Day journal by Lecterm 1917. Not sure if that's how you say it. But it's a 5-year journal, and each day is split into 5 sections. So each day for 5 years, you can see what you wrote. So you don't write a lot. And I got it in mid-December, and I've been keeping up with it. And I'm really excited to see what it's going to be like 5 years from now, or next year on December 31st, looking back at what I wrote today. And then in 2025 and 2026, I'll be able to go to that page and see on that day, 2-3 years ago, what was I thinking about? What was going on? What will my life be like in another year, 2 years, 5 years? That was actually underscored this morning. I was on Instagram. I try not to get on social media first thing in the morning, but for some reason I did today. And I guess I was meant to, because the first thing that came up was this video from Tabitha Brown. Tab Brown, who is inspiring actress, vegan chef, I guess. And she posted the 6-year anniversary of the video that really started it all, that kind of went viral for her and began her journey. So 6 years ago, I will link to it in the show notes. It's a video she posted. She was driving Uber. She had dropped someone off at Whole Foods and she'd just become a vegan and decided to get this vegan sandwich. And it's just her authentic, natural reaction to what was apparently for her a very delicious sandwich. And after that, Whole Foods contacted her after the video went viral and her career started. And I was just like crying, watching this video, reading the comments. Then she had a follow-up video. And it was just, I'll link to that too. I watched them in order because it was so inspiring. So that was 6 years ago. And now I think she has an Emmy and she's just this huge celebrity. But you see that she is the same exact person. She hasn't changed. She was authentic then when she was not known. She's authentic now when she is known. Everything is coming from her spirit, from a deep place of spirituality and being connectedness. And that was inspiring. Like, what is going to happen? What will I look back on 6 years from now and say? Like, you never know the thing that will change everything. You never know what post, what book, what word, what person, what thing you go to that you'll meet somebody that leads to this. You just never know. And in the same way, you never know when the last time you see someone will be the last, or most of the time you don't know. You never know when the first time will be that something happens. And it was just so deeply inspiring. It was such a great way to start the day. And I want to share it with y'all. So make sure you check out that video in the notes. A lot of people have chosen a word for 2024. I haven't chosen a word. Maybe one will come to me. I don't know. I'm still working on all of the same things that I've been working on this year and trying to improve and get better at them. I'm still thinking about things like do less but do it better, on authenticity, and what those things mean and how to exemplify them more. I'm working on harmony and gratitude. I am working on a lot. And I did a post on the Footnotes newsletter that came out today, just with some things that I was grateful for. In overview, it's been a very difficult year, but there's so much to be grateful for. And I am really trying to look at the positive. One last story. Over Christmas, I was with my mother and my brother, and we went to Nashville very randomly. We don't have any family in Nashville. We just rented an Airbnb and decided to go. And before we left, I had been on a walk and listening to, I try to listen to like walking meditations or some kind of meditation that I don't have to be still for on Insight Timer on the app. And I was listening to this woman, and she told this story about the two wolves. And I had never heard this story before. It was, I'm going to tell it poorly, but basically a grandfather is telling his grandson this story about these two wolves that we all have inside of us that fight. And one wolf represents all the negative emotions, fear, despair, guilt, shame, all these negative things. And the other wolf represents the positive, the hope and joy and love and gratitude. And the grandson asks the grandfather, well, which one will win? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. And when I heard that, it just lit something up inside of me. And so I was at dinner with my mother and my brother, and we were talking about something. And something happened where I was about to tell that story. I was about to say, I heard this thing, when my brother told the exact story. And he's like, there's this podcast he listens to, which is called The One You Feed. And he tells that story to all the guests and asks what it means to them. And I was like, I was literally about to tell that exact same story that I got to from a totally different place. But ever since then, I've been thinking so much about the one you feed. What am I feeding? What am I feeding? What are my thoughts focused on? Where is my energy focused on? And it's so much, going through so much turmoil and pain. It's like, there's that, and I have to feel that. You have to go through that. But like, maybe I don't have a word for 2024. But if anything, the theme will be, how am I going to be feeding the proper wolf? I know that we need both of them. We need all of the whole range of emotions. But the one that you feed is the one that will grow and the one that will win. So my hope for us all is to focus on which wolf we're feeding and to navigate the hills and valleys and the ups and downs with some measure of grace. After my year-end post today, I got a bunch of emails from people for whom it resonated. And it was a very personal and vulnerable post for me to write, and I almost didn't post it. So I was grateful for everyone who reached out and commented and emailed me. And shout out to author Nilu Nasser, who emailed me. And something in her email was just so beautiful. She said, wishing you a year of healing, a year that grounds you and that allows you to fly. And that feels like a really powerful benediction. So I will take her beautiful words and share them with you. So for 2024, I wish you a year of healing, a year that grounds you and that allows you to fly. And it is the next year when you listen to this, but I will see you next year, and I hope that you have a happy new year.